Day 3 of the Joe Biden hostage crisis, as we witness what political insiders are calling a bomb drop in Washington. The first shots fired in the Democrats' civil war. It was Nancy Pelosi who pulled the trigger on Biden's favorite morning show.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short. I think overwhelming support of the caucus. It's not for me to say. I'm not the head of the caucus anymore. But he's beloved. He is respected, and people want him to make that decision.
Biden decided he's running, and Nancy Pelosi said he hasn't decided yet. But time's running out. One senior Democrat aide said, "She knows he's watching. She's not an idiot. She chose those words carefully." Another one said it was a shot in the arm. Biden thought he had until Saturday before Democrats sent in the SWAT team. But Pelosi, the sharpshooter, taking aim early.
Do you believe that him waiting so long to make this decision could harm the party?
Any comments in the hallway about the fate of our nation? Okay?
Are you concerned whether or not he can win in November?
I think he can win.
Do you believe he should run for re-election?
I'm not speaking English to you. I'm not going to be making any statements about any of that right now in the hallway.
It's one thing for the House to buck Biden, but the Senate, the chamber close to Joe's heart, is starting to crack.
I am deeply concerned about Joe Biden winning this November because it is an existential threat to the country if Donald Trump wins.
This race is on a trajectory that is very worrisome if you care about the future of this country. Donald Trump is on track, I think, to win this election and maybe win it by a landslide and take with him the Senate and the House. For me, this isn't a question about polling. It's not a question about politics. It's a moral question about the future of our country.
And just breaking tonight, the first Democrat member of the Senate is calling on Biden to withdraw from the race, Senator Peter Welch of Vermont. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is telling donors he's open to dumping Biden. So Nancy and Chuck have formed an alliance. And Biden's countering. How? By sending his staff to Capitol Hill tomorrow to beg. But an anonymous Democrat senator calls it a waste of everyone's time if Biden can't even come make the case himself. Biden's done negotiating. CNN reports that Biden is done talking about it, and he's staying in the race. But this is a delicate hostage negotiation, and if Biden thinks only God can convince him to bow out, he should prepare for this.
If he doesn't drop out in the next week or two, a whistleblower will emerge, somebody who has some fortitude, some ethics, some morals inside of Joe Biden's cabinet, somebody inside of that White House who knows what's going on, who understands the cover-up, and they will leak something to you for your primetime show.
Biden's about to realize that the presidency isn't the most powerful thing in Washington. The Democrat machine is. We're witnessing a D-Day level invasion, air, ground, sea. Barack Obama just directed George Clooney to send up the bat signal that Barack really did need to help Joe off the stage at the LA fundraiser. More on that later. Top Chicago donors are already halting fundraising lunches at the convention. But Biden reportedly saying, if major donors don't come along, we'll do it without them. Tough talk, but behind the scenes, Team Biden's scrambling tonight, calling up convention delegates to head off a rebellion in Chicago. Delegates were reportedly thunderstruck at the calls. Some of them had to double-check the caller ID to make sure it was from Delaware and not a prank call. Biden's delegates see a bloodbath coming.
If Biden ends up running, potentially the Democrats could lose the Senate, the House, and the White House. And it's going to be a bloodbath. The blue states that we have held for many decades might potentially turn red.
Democrats are panicking over polling that shows New York is now a battleground state. Sticking with Biden has become political suicide. The Clintons are saying the party is sailing into a hurricane.
It reminds me of a book they made me read in college called Ship of Fools. a bunch of desperate people sailing into disaster. And, you know, I just think that cowards have never beat criminals in a war yet. And the way that you beat criminals is not to be cowards, is to take it directly home.
Biden, for the first time in 50 years, has his own party rooting against him. And it's not just that. Trump, the media, and the Democrats all want the same thing. Biden gone. The Times says longtime party loyalists are now reduced to hoping for another major public misstep by Biden, such as a serious stumble at his NATO news conference to convince the president that he should leave the race on his own. Democrats are literally praying that Biden falls over another sandbag. In June, Biden tripping would have been the Democrats' biggest nightmare. And now in July, it's their only hope. And his big boy NATO press conference could be the final dance. His first press conference where he won't get the questions ahead of time. But he should know no one's going to ask about NATO. Tomorrow's press conference is going to be so brutal that Dana Perino is advising the White House to cancel it, to save Joe's dignity, and allow him to leave with some grace. Biden's whole presidency has been focused on how history will remember him. He spent hours with historians in the Oval. He's compared himself to Washington, Lincoln, and FDR. He has Steven Spielberg choreographing his campaign. But history will remember Biden for how he handles this. Not COVID, not the CHIPS Act, how he handles this moment. Is there going to be an extraction team sent into the White House with a straitjacket and a gurney? Or does Biden hold hostages until the convention, where he's going to dare the delegates to vote for someone else? Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.